All right, everybody. A bit of a mess over there. Sorry about that. Just trying to do everything quickly so I don't keep you up any longer. A bit of a mess over there. Sorry about that. And now we got that mess straightened out. Okay, so of course we have Irma, and we're going to take a look at a couple of things regarding Irma before we start the video. So let me just show you a few things happening with respect to this system. And I want to take a look first off at the water vapor imagery here. And there's Irma right out in the Atlantic doing quite well tonight, very well organized. Now, to the northwest by a fair distance is this upper low that's sitting out in the east central Atlantic. It got weaker today. But it's still there, so we're going to watch this. It's forecast to weaken during the day tomorrow. There is some dry air to the north and west, but it's not really getting involved in the circulation. Irma remains extremely well defined here as it moves to the west. It's got a good inflow, and you can pretty much see this dry air patch is fairly narrow as you go westward. So that that's something that we've been concerned about with tropical systems out in the Atlantic this year so far. So we have to always give it a bit of a look. And here's the tighter view from the standpoint of here's the African coast. And you can see how this system has really developed today. Just got rapidly better organized. It went from at this time last night to as a strong tropical wave. And now we have a strong tropical storm in less than 24 hours. And I think we're going to definitely have a hurricane before when we are at this time tomorrow, maybe even sooner. So let's get the weather part going, and we'll come back at the end and we'll chat just a little bit. So hang on one second. Very well defined and continuing to get better organized as it tracks off to the west. You can see this core of convection in the enhanced satellite view and the brighter red spots that kind of come and go with the higher cloud tops. But it has a well-defined core and circulation. You're getting a good inflow of tropical moisture. There really isn't a lot of dry air here that it has to deal with. So from this standpoint and everything that I'm looking at, this thing is going to become a hurricane probably on a Thursday as it continues to move toward the west. It looks like it's at about 30, little bit west of 32 degrees north now, and again maybe just a slight bit of latitude at 16.5-ish north. So just moving right along on a course slightly north of due west. And this track's expected to continue. But I want to look at the upper air going forward because weather models today pretty much illustrate what we've been saying all along with regards to Irma and what's happening with respect to the upper winds in the atmosphere and the steering current. So we're going to start with today's European model. And one of the things that I want to everybody to pay attention to here is, you have this Atlantic ridge and there's a bit of a weakness like right in there. Here's Irma, and Irma's moving to the west. Now, this weakness is, I'm just going to back it up. This weakness was a little better defined a day or two ago, but you'll notice that as we move through time, and here we are into Saturday on the European, this ridge in the Atlantic strengthens. The weakness disappears rapidly, and you've got this, big upper high that is in total control here. And that is not only going to steer it westward, but if the this model is correct, we're going to see it maybe turn more west-southwest with time as it responds to that strengthening ridge. And the European is especially strong with this ridge here. You can see it here, just very dominant across the Atlantic. There's a weakness out along 40 West. Of course, that's not a factor, but overall, it's a very big upper high that essentially stretches from the African coast almost to the southeast coast, and Irma is underneath it. The Europeans ridge is so strong that it actually takes Irma as a major hurricane over the northern Leeward Islands and just straddles along the north shore of the Dominican Republic to the Bahamas. So this is really going to be the most, at least for now, that upper high, which late in the period kind of migrates northeastward a little bit, is going to be the driving force. Now, late in the period, this is 8 days from now, we've got this deep trough in the eastern part of the United States. So at this position, the question would be, does it respond to that trough or does it do something different, assuming that it even gets there? And you got to remember that at this stage in the long range, this trough might be here, it may be more back a little bit further to the west, or it could even be deeper and a little bit further to the east. There are all sorts of different variables here that we don't know about, and those variables could allow for a recurvature offshore. It could allow for a track and a recurvature a little further to the west. A lot of unknowns, and there's one other unknown too, is that the ridge in the Atlantic could be so strong that maybe it'll drive it so far south that it winds up going in the northeast Caribbean. I mean, that we can't really rule that out. Now the GFS, the GFS, I'm going to have to go back one run in a minute, but I'll start with the new run, because one of the things that the GFS, the GFS with Irma takes it, west northwest, and then begins its turn also to the southwest as it responds to this strengthening ridge right in there. Now, if we go back, take a look at how this ridge is pretty much straight across east to west. I want to go back 2 runs, and the ridge is not as strong 2 runs ago. So the models are getting stronger with that ridge. Also, there is a little bit of a weakness here that from the earlier run, and you can see it there as the upper high kind of goes back out into the Atlantic. Okay, this is the GFS's view. Trough coming down into the east, and here's your weakness offshore. This is, again, the GFS. Now look at the European from today. Much different with the way it handles the ridge. Much stronger upper high out in the Atlantic. This would keep it on a much more westerly course for a lot longer period of time. So until we get it west of 60, the most important thing right now is to look at where the upper high and the structure of the upper high, and is it going to be as strong as the European suggests. The GFS on the mid-cycle run, let me just get to the mid-cycle run here. This is the run that ran during the late afternoon today. We have a bit of a difference here in that we have this upper low sitting out in the Atlantic, very weak upper low. The upper high is still there, but the upper low is indicated there, and that creates a bit of a weakness and pulls it further north, if that's real. But we don't know. We don't know. The European, for the same time frame, Sunday morning. Let me just switch to the European. Much less of a. There's very little here. If it's there, it's extremely weak. The high is just too dominant on this. And if we have the new GFS out far enough, we may or may not. Let's see. And I'm not sure that we do, but let's see. Yes, we do. And the GFS at this point at 84 hours, which is 12Z Sunday or 8 a.m. Sunday, has that upper low there. So that's something we're going to have to watch closely. Is this upper low a real feature or is it not? And again, that is another variable that we are going to have to look at. It still has a pretty strong upper high across the Atlantic. It would suggest that the flow that it should move to the west, but that upper low might make a difference. Let's just look back on the GFS at this point, and let's see the motion of Irma. And it does turn it southwestward there. So by Sunday afternoon, that upper low is virtually gone. So it's telling us that that upper low is going to disappear, and the ridge is going to be in control. So this is a little bit of a alert flag, let's call it, in terms of where this is all going to go. Now let's look at the strength up at least through 84 hours. It'll tell us something. And at this point, the GFS has a 960 millibar pressure, indicative of a borderline Category 2, Category 3 hurricane, and that is, you see how it moves on the surface low. At this point, it is still moving west-southwestward. Let me just roll it back again, and there you have it. It moves a little bit west-northwest, then west, and then, I'm sorry, I'm going to start this over. Here we go. Now we're into Saturday afternoon. Now we're into Sunday afternoon, and that's as far as the new GFS takes us with respect to Irma. So what it does once it gets west of 60, we'll wait till our dayside discussion tomorrow to look at what the total overnight model runs did with this. But we're going to have a major hurricane to contend with, and the GFS, along with the European earlier today, really brought the pressures down very low. Let's get to this Western Atlantic view. I'm going to go back a run. Been a long day, folks. I'm just kind of tired. 9:45, 9:40, 9:30. Fills it up a little bit. 9:40, 9:28, 9:18, 9:15, 9:10, 9:08, 8:97. I mean, this is a Category 5 hurricane that the mid-cycle run created. The European, we'll go put the anomalies on so we could see the better looking surface map. There it is on the GFS, and here it is on the European. Look how much further south and west the European is. The European has a Category 3 hurricane down in the Bahamas at this point, and this is on day 10. Again, it could have put it anywhere. It doesn't. We can't focus on the specifics in terms of what the models do really beyond day 5 with all the different things that are happening. Okay, so let's real fast. I'm going to just take a look at what's left of Harvey, downward depression, moving steadily northeastward, still producing rains in East Texas and northwest Louisiana. And with respect to Harvey, we'll look at the new GFS run. And we'll put it in the eastern region. And let's back this up. Okay, so Harvey goes up the west side of the Appalachians. You've got this big, for this time of year anyway, this is a pretty big high that comes into the northeast. We've got this cold shot of, we'll call it cold, but it's certainly a very cool shot of air that moves down into New England. This particular run, we're at Friday evening. The shot of cool air really kind of maxes out Friday morning, but on Saturday, when they go west of the Appalachians, it's kind of tough. A lot of times the moisture just gets played out. So with the absence of a good strong upper trough to energize it, you're not going to get a whole lot of rain out of this. So we do have some rain coming in Saturday night into Sunday morning into the northeast. And then it's pretty much done with Sunday afternoon, and then weather conditions should improve. So I think Labor Day is going to be a pretty nice warm day. One other spot we should look at, by the way, is the Southwest Gulf, because that was showing us a possibility of something happening. Why don't we take the Western Atlantic view so we can go far enough south? We do have lower than normal pressures here on in the Southwest Gulf, and some indication of some moisture. You can see where there is showing measurable rainfall. Here's the easternmost edge of Irma coming into the picture at 102 hours, which is Sunday night, actually 2 a.m. Monday. But there is the possibility that we could see something form in the Southwest Gulf as we move into early next week. We'll have to see how the models handle this as we go forward. All right, folks, stand by. I'm going to switch over and we'll talk just a little bit. So just hang on. I'll be right with you. Hang on. I'll be right. And I'm right with you. Okay. Again, my apologies with regards to kind of the sloppy start there. I'm right with you. Okay. Again, my apologies. And the sloppy finish. Oh, yeah, I am tired. Again, with respect to longer range, once we get past, day 4 or day 5, the variables just become too problematic to, too widespread. The broad view is the most important thing for us to look at, the broad view of the upper air, and that we know what we're dealing with, so that as we get closer and closer through time, we can really zero in on where this is going to go. Now, Clay, hold on, I'm sorry. Let me just, Stormcaster, you wanted to know about Harvey with respect to some rains into Indiana. Let me just back up. Actually, it does bring some rain into southern Indiana, but not much further north than the southern part of the state. By the way, the new GFS would have a strong Category 4 hurricane when it reaches near 60 west. It takes it northeast of the Leewards, and it does it again where it deepens it to a Category 5 hurricane. At this point, it's at about 25 north, maybe about 24 or 5 north, and about 67, 68 west, and moving toward the northwest at this point. But that's probably going to be in response to the troughing that's going to be along the eastern seaboard, and whether it just winds up only making it to 70 before it goes northward, perhaps that would indicate a threat for more Bermuda than anything else. I don't know. We can go at this all day long in terms of figuring out where this is going to wind up in the long range. So we're never going to answer that question. One of the things the model does do, by the way, on this run is that it seems to also lessen the threat for something. It does have lower pressures in the Gulf of Mexico, but it's not developing anything like it was during the day today. So that really would be good news if nothing comes out of the southwestern Gulf, because the last thing the western part of the Gulf of Mexico, Texas and Louisiana need to deal with is another tropical storm just a handful of days after the Harvey leaves. Karina Rivera, I think that the odds of this going westward, forever, are low because of the fact that there's going to be a deep trough in the east, and I think it's going to respond to that, and probably not going to. I don't see how, with the upper air the way it is at this point, where it could wind up in the Gulf of Mexico. So I mean, that's what I'm seeing now. Things could certainly change, especially as we go deeper and deeper into the long range. But for now, I don't think this is a Gulf of Mexico problem. The only thing with the Gulf, again, is if something were to come out of the southwestern Gulf, but that's a completely separate situation. Daryl Hutchings, Newfoundland, 3 days mean nothing. Yeah, you're right. You're probably going to see a couple of model runs do something for you up there at some point with this. Wouldn't be surprised, but also the same variables apply to you folks in the Canadian Maritimes as apply to everybody else. The GFS, the European, they're all going to have that wide variability. The GFS is kind of stuck in its mode with respect to what it wants to do. The European is much further south and west with everything, so we'll have to wait until the overnight European run comes in. So tomorrow at 11 a.m., I'll do a live stream where I would have seen, we'll look at all the overnight models and mid-cycle runs and everything else that's out there, including the Canadian, which should not be out far enough yet. It's amazing what this, that the GFS really brings this down almost to 900 millibars by next Friday. This is next Friday morning, so we are in day 8 in the long range. Every day brings us a day closer, so that's going to make the models that a little bit more accurate. But I have to just be cautious here because there's just too much. This could just still wind up being something that just recurves east of 70, and it's not a bother to anybody. So all possibilities I think are on the table here at this point. Now, as far as the Labor Day weekend goes, at least for my area, you're going to be okay for later Sunday, and I think Monday is going to be a nice warm beach day if that's what if that's your thing. If you want to get maybe one last day at the beach before everybody goes to school, back to school, and vacation season stops and things kind of normalize, Monday might be your day. So look, we'll finish it up here, folks. We're going to get a good night's sleep, come back tomorrow morning with a fresh head, and we'll take a look at what's going on. So everybody have a great evening. Thanks for being here so late. I really appreciate it, and appreciate your patience with my sloppiness tonight, and we'll see you in the morning.